Hey, welcome back to Business 150, Introduction to Management. And in this third lecture, we are looking specifically at different ways for companies to enter into the international marketplace, what we sometimes call organizational involvement, or perhaps another way to put it is entry modes. How do you enter into an international marketplace? And we hope that after this video, you'll be able to specify the different levels of organizational involvement in international trade. In other words, what are the four major entry modes to go international? Now, let's open right out of the gates here. This is a table from chapter 5 of your textbook. You can see here it lists off 6 different ways to get involved. And didn't you just on the previous slide say 4? Yes, I did, because 4 of these are the predominant ways that we think of organizational involvement or getting involved in entering into international business. And those are number 1, exporting, importing; number 2, licensing and franchising; number 3, joint venture or strategic alliance; and number 4, direct investment, also known as FDI or foreign direct investment. All right, so those are the 4 levels that we're going to look at in this lecture deck, and let's get started. So level 1 is exporting, and you can see there the bullet points. A company may be involved in international trade at several levels. Each of these levels we're going to talk about requires a greater commitment of resources and effort. Okay, so this is sort of the way to get your toe in the water, exporting. Least level, lowest level of commitment to resources, commitment of effort. Exporting is just the sale of your stuff overseas. It's a sale of your existing goods and services, and you are exporting it into another marketplace to try and sell it there. You may not even need to change the product itself or even the packaging. You're just able to put it in a brown box called UPS and ship it off to that other country. Now, the opposite of exporting is obviously importing. If you're exporting, it's that country's import. If they're exporting, it's our import. So you just got to keep those 2 terms straight. But that's pretty straightforward, right? So there are other permutations of this. You see them below: counter trade agreements and trading companies facilitating these kinds of things. But really, what we're talking about is exporting. If you believe that there may be a potential appetite for your product or service in another country, you export it and see what's going on. You see whether it works, you see whether or not there is an interest. And hey, if you're able to start selling it over there, you are successful. You are starting to make money overseas by selling your product in another marketplace. That's a wonderful way to test the waters and see, hey, is there an appetite for my product in that country? It's not all roses, though. There is a downside to exporting because, well, number 1, UPS does not ship stuff for free. They charge you. And quite frankly, shipping stuff internationally is expensive, and it'll start to add up. And not only that, like we talked about in a previous deck, that government in that other country may hold your stuff at the dock until you pay them a tariff, a tax. And so both those things, your shipping costs and your tariff structure, is going to start eating into your profits. And so exporting is a great way to get started. It may not be the way that you want to keep doing business because of those additional costs. Well, you can see here that there are leading purchasers of our exports. You can see them there: Canada and Mexico, respectively $270 and $230 billion in exported goods, and that is facilitated a great deal because of the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA. But also China, Japan, and the United Kingdom buy an awful lot of US-made stuff. And so those are primary trade partners for us. Well, if you get tired of paying those kind of export costs that are involved, you may want to escalate to level 2. Level 2, one step above level 1, licensing, franchising. What is licensing? Licensing is allowing a foreign company to use your company name, your products, your patents, your brands, your trademarks, access to raw materials and your production processes in order to start selling your stuff in their country, and they pay you a flat fee or some sort of a royalty, a per unit royalty, right? Now, licensing is for instance, you want to start selling your product there, you find a company to build it over there, all of a sudden you don't have to pay shipping costs because it's built over there, right? And you don't have to pay for tariffs because it's no longer an import into that country. It's made there, right? So you're just allowing them to use your company name, logos, know-how, processes, all those kinds of things, and they are paying you some sort of a licensing royalty fee, right? Now, for some types of products, you aren't necessarily licensing, you're using franchising. What is franchising? You can see there it's a type of licensing. The franchisor provides a franchisee with the name, the logo, the methods of operation, and primarily this is for stuff like selling food, right? Because you can't, for instance, you can't export pizza, right? It gets cold by the time it reaches another country. Not only that, it's oily and moldy, and we won't even go there, right? But nevertheless, you get the point, right? So franchising is a way of licensing, right? And in exchange for the use of all these things, the franchisee agrees to a financial commitment and the agreement to conduct business the way that you want them to conduct business and to pay you a franchise fee on a regular basis, right? So this can be a wonderful way for you, for instance, to start selling pizzas in Thailand, is to be able to just simply license your trademarks, your logos, your menu, your processes, how you make Pizza Hut pizzas, right, and start selling them over there. So that's level 2 of the levels of international involvement. Now, you may say, well, okay, I'm not so sure I want to just collect franchising fees. In that point, some folks go to level 3. Level 3 is forming a true joint venture or a strategic alliance, which is a true partnership in which companies from different countries agree to share the costs and the operation of the business. This can be a wonderful thing, joint ventures and strategic alliances. Why? Because you're forming a durable partnership with a company in that country who already knows how to do business in that country. And so, some of the cultural things we were talking about a slide deck ago, right? They already know how to do business with customers in that country. They already know what the cultural preferences are for customers in that country because, well, they live and work in that country, right? And so it's a wonderful way to bridge those kinds of gaps. Now, what's the downside of joint ventures and strategic alliances? Well, the major downside is you now have a partner. In other words, you are not the master of your own destiny. You have to agree with your partner how things are going to get done. You have to agree with your partner what is the best strategy. You have to agree with your partner on a whole lot of things. You don't get to do things just because you want to do them. You got to agree with a partner. And that can be a source of great frustration and a great deal of disagreement and challenge in getting things done in a business. Remember, your partner lives and breathes and works in another country, so your partner may not look at things the same way that you do. That can create a whole nother set of challenges and complexities. Which is why for some companies they decide, that's it, we're going to level 4, and this is the most committed level of organizational involvement, or the largest footprint as an entry mode, and that's called foreign direct investment, sometimes abbreviated FDI. FDI, as you can see here, the purchase of overseas production and marketing facilities. In other words, you own the whole thing. You are going to sink in an enormous amount of money, maybe several millions of dollars, in order to own the entire factory, the entire facility, the entire refining facility, right? And so this can be very expensive if things go wrong. Nevertheless, the great advantage of FDI, as you might guess, you have complete control. As the old blues song goes, you are paying the cost to be the boss. And the cost can get pretty high. All right, so from here, we want to give you a little table. This table is not in our textbook. I sort of borrowed this from another textbook that I sometimes teach from. And this is going to give you the 4 primary approaches to internationalization, or as we call it in this textbook, methods of organizational involvement, or levels of organizational involvement, right? And it gives you there the chart of advantages and disadvantages for each particular mode. And really the point we want to make of this, right, as I trust you will study this slide to understand and be able to respond, for instance, on a midterm exam or a quiz coming to a theater near you. What are the advantages and disadvantages of each of these entry modes? The real point, of course, as a manager is to consider there's no such thing as a free lunch, right? There's no one best way. Again, a lot of your decision, what is the appropriate entry mode, is going to depend on your research and analysis of the environmental factors in that other country, like we talked about in video number 2 in this module, right? And once you decide what you're dealing with, if that marketplace and with competitors and with partners, that's when you make a wise decision. What are the advantages you really want to leverage, and what disadvantages are you willing to live with? Right? No such thing as a free lunch, always going to be pros and cons, but you got to make a wise decision based on your analysis of that country's marketplace. So we hope that now, after these 2 videos, video 2 and video 3, you understand why the global environment is so important and how that implies upon your choice, your specific choice and selection of the different level of organizational involvement or entry mode that you want to use to begin to get involved in international trade. So we hope that this is helpful, taken in conjunction with, of course, video number 2, right? And we will see you in the next lecture.